Hey everyone, welcome back to OCD Recovery's YouTube channel. Now that the REBT series is over, and Moment will be dropping those throughout the next couple weeks as well. I think there's about 8 more videos to upload. I have a list of all these different topics I've been writing down, things that keep coming up, and I haven't, because I did the last, 20 videos or so were on exercises. I wanted to branch out and talk about some different things. I made a video the other day that was really good, talking about underestimating compulsions and the symptoms that kind of come with that. Make sure you watch that. That was a really good video, got a lot of great responses. Today, I want to talk about why OCD is a lot more complex. As Rob says, it's not rocket science, but it's a lot more complex than what most people say on social media and TED Talks, etc. Before I go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button down below. Let me know what you think about this video. I also want to talk about the victimhood mentality with OCD and why that really doesn't do anything for the sufferer, although it's understandable. Phil at OCDrecovery.com. Again, we work with people all over the world. We are limited on slots, but we make it work. I work very early in the morning, late at night, whatever I have to do to get people in and help them. It's my number one mission in my life when it comes to work, and it's something I'm very passionate about. Okay, so the first thing I want to cover, because when you so much involved with OCD is filled in my algorithms, whether it's Instagram, the home pages, or everything. And I see stuff when it comes to TED Talks, and there's a TED Talk title that says, I'm so OCD, and talking about the realities. You need to be very careful when you watch these videos, not in an avoidance pattern. You need to be careful of who you're talking to, listening to. It doesn't matter what anyone else says about OCD. It doesn't matter if everyone on earth says that OCD is made up. One of my best friends, who I literally was with yesterday, was talking about postpartum depression, and we talked about mental health. He's a very intelligent guy, but doesn't believe in that stuff. It doesn't matter what he says. I just yes him to death. I use that Keanu Reeves statement where he's like, people just tell me 1 + 1 = 5. And I say, yeah, absolutely. Because it's not worth going down the rabbit hole. I don't want to take the time after I'm hiking at the pool in the hot tub for 3 hours explaining something to someone where they're not going to listen to me anyway. It's a total waste of my time. And they're not paid, they're not coming in, and their ass isn't on the line. That's why getting too many things for free can be problematic in certain ways, because we don't have any skin in the game. So you need to be careful on who you're listening to. There's so many people, if I type hashtag OCD, that are telling you to scream at your mom, scream at your father. They don't understand. They should understand. They don't need to understand. It does not fucking matter at all what anyone says at all. I'm not saying that's not going to sting. I'm not saying it's not going to be frustrating, but it's not going to actually help you get better. Okay, so OCD is a lot more complex than most people. I think one of my favorite things to say is 99.9%, but this one I'm going to say 99.5%. We'll go there a little bit more. But I rarely, if ever, see people explaining the full picture of OCD, because most people who are explaining OCD have never had chronic OCD, right? Very similar to severe traumatic PTSD storming in a jungle in Vietnam or another war zone. That person's more than likely going to be the best person to get experience from if they've come out the other side of PTSD, because they've killed people in a war zone, versus someone who teaches military history at Harvard. It's not that that person doesn't have great insight in learning a lot. I read a lot of books on stuff like that. I love war, and I love the psychology around war. I'm reading a book right now about all of that, all the way from long distance arterial, oh my gosh. Just blanked out in the world. Anyway, so when you're harming people without being face-to-face, all the way up to knife contact face-to-face, and the psychological disturbances that happen from that when you can dissociate easier when you're dropping bombs on someone or something like that. And this has nothing to do with what's going on in the world today. It has just to do with the psychology and why I'm interested in that. So, but the reality is we need to be careful, because a lot of people are telling you things that it's not that simple. Here's the realities of OCD. A lot of people see a lot of good progress in the first 1 to 3 or 6 months when they read the books, they cut exposures, they cut compulsions, but OCD tends to come back stronger and stronger and stronger over a multi-year period for many people. I want to tell you that because I don't want people telling you, well, most people that put the work in, they're better in 6 months. You might be better in that time, but I work with numerous people where OCD comes back and uppercuts them in the face, like Mike Tyson, because they took an unrealistic expectation. And everything I'm talking to you about right now is all things that I did myself. It took me quite a few years to get better, but 2-3 years in, I don't ever need progress because I have very low expectations. I just enjoy whatever comes at me. It took me a long time to change that perspective. I got that from Charlie Munger and Stoicism and REBT about one of the number one ways to work on happiness is to have low expectations. RIP Charlie Munger, but that's basically what Stoicism say, and Epicureanism and other Greco-Roman philosophies and REBT, etc. So, but you more than likely are underestimating what is happening inside of your body. You have a mental health disorder. You do not have the flu. You don't have a cold. You didn't break your leg and your leg is healed. You have a disorder of the fucking brain, okay? In here that we do not understand. No one really understands the genetic potential of OCD because it feels as real as it can get, and it's so convincing. I'll give you an example. You have any idea how many people out there say they have chronic fatigue syndrome, but it's probably just their OCD? How many people out there that say they have a gluten or dairy intolerance, but they probably just have mild or chronic OCD? These are two examples. I can go on for hours of stuff like that. Pain problems, arthritic problems, stuff I see all the time in my healthcare practice. So you see stuff like this all the time, and you have to be, there's compassion and sympathy involved because it's so convincing, hence why it's called as real as it can get. And OCD has no rules. You could have read all the books on the reading list, called all your compulsions, all your avoidance behaviors, and OCD comes back in there and rips the rug out from underneath you because it does not care. So the chance of that happening goes down more and more as you work on your principles, but most people need quite a few really good setbacks and relapses in order to show them. I look at them now, they don't really happen at all, but I did look at them towards the back end as necessities in my life. They showed me things where I wasn't accepting as much as I thought, but I did not think that the first 2, 3, 5, 20, 30, 40, 50 spikes. Unlimited. It took me 3 years, 4 years, if I had a spike in that moment to say, this is showing me something of where I need more work, whether it's fear, whether it's unconditional self-acceptance, etc. Again, this is what I see usually, okay? Most people right now are half-assing or putting the work into some degree because it's really hard to put work in when you're suffering. So I get that. But I have to say that because there's no other way to get better besides putting the work in, changing your beliefs, doing your exposures when necessary, etc. Second thing is most people, again, these are all things I did, underestimate just how much effort it takes to wear discomfort like an uncomfortable coat when you're going through OCD and anxiety recovery, because it takes a lot more effort than we want. But it's important. OCD was the best and worst thing to ever happen to me. The reason why it was the best, nothing has been a greater teacher in life on patience and consistency and poise and learning that I can still come across as calm, even though the inside of my body is screaming with anger, depression, a lot of panic, anxiety. Didn't suffer so much with shame and guilt like Sam and some other people. It doesn't matter. It's still all fear. It affects everyone differently. I don't compare to anyone. I'm very fortunate with that. I have no comparisons. I could be 10 years in, had the biggest relapse of my life that lasts for 3 years, and I will not compare myself to Rob. There's no need, because it doesn't matter how much better Rob has acceptance on me or where anyone is. And Moment has no acceptance because Moment's an idiot. We all know this, right? We all know that Moment is really dumb, but we kind of like pet him. And we're like, hey, Moment, how you doing? We love you. Anyway, I love Moment. He's the best. Moment's given me a lot of perspectives on different sides of life. Being a gay man in Pakistan, very, very different than being a gay person in Los Angeles, right? Obviously, there's prejudice everywhere, but there's always something to be grateful for in some way. Something I cannot relate to in that way, but Moment goes in great depth about that. So, but taking that realistic perspective on that, like just because you've read all 6 books doesn't mean you're going to recover. Just because you've done all your exposures doesn't mean it's going to change your belief. Just because you've gone back to work and build your structure doesn't mean your symptoms are not going to be there for a long time. Now, I don't say this to scare you. I'm saying it to motivate you, to show you about why taking a realistic perspective is so important. It's like marriage, right? When you get married and you're with someone for 40 years, you're going to have a lot of ups and downs. If there's no ups and downs, more than likely someone is probably yesing to death the other person, which is common and also understandable because it's hard to, people, they say confrontation is anger, and there could be anger with confrontation. It doesn't always mean anger. So just taking the realistic perspective. But again, to leave you with even more hope is if you put the work in the beginning. I've seen people I took my life back in 2 to 3 months. 2 to 3 months. 2, 3. So I was back at work fully. I was bringing symptoms for the ride. I was back in the gym. I was hiking again. But I still chronically suffered for another year or two after that, on mostly a daily basis. So thank you again phil@ocdrecovery.com. Thank you for reaching out as always. Thank you for the support and thank you for all the comments. I love engaging with the community, whether we agree or disagree. That doesn't matter to me. I always try to respond in a thoughtful way. I'm a human, so I falter at times like we all do, but I try my best on that because it's always a good life learning lesson. And remember, life would be very boring if we agreed on everything, right? That's why we're so addicted to all the drama and politics and religion and money and finances and relationship drama and social media stuff. It's because it spices life up, sometimes in a very, very negative way, but etc. Thank you again, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.